Okay, I wanted to do this video because I was watching a video by Epity Unicorn, and I like her content. I definitely do like her content. I have no complaints about it really. It's generally good. I might disagree with someone on colorism, but overall, I don't know. Like, I've heard her speak on colorism personally for herself. It's it's relatable, and that might be because we are very similar in phenotype in that regard. But um, other than that, I agree with her most of the time. It seems like on these type of issues, it seems from what I've seen. I won't say that I agree with her, all the time because I don't watch her content that often. But some of the stuff I've seen is just like, oh, Um, but anyway, there was something she brought up in one of her videos. It's a couple months ago. And it was on Pink Pill. And, it made me think of some things. Like, for me, I notice often with um, these type of channels, not her type of channel, really. I'm not talking about her channel. Specifically, a channel she's talking about. It is always like this. Like, I thought of myself kind of like with different content creators and different sectors. And it's like I generally find it's like ow, sorry, something got stuck in my nail. Anyway, I feel like people, they have the male side of YouTube, the manosphere side. They have the domestic side. They have I guess, the mammies or whatever, that side as well, or pygmies, things of that nature. And it's like, I've always felt like when it comes to different platforms, I never felt welcomed on the divested side. I never felt like I was expected to be divested. I always felt like, um, when you promote, the divested side, you're often told, you know, like people come at you with vitriol, basically. In my experience, it's like there's a lot of vitriol that comes your way when you're on their side, you know, and it's like even if you're a swirler and you're divested, you're still you still get a lot of anger, and they'll try and bring up reasons why you're not divested so then they can attack you. Even if you're agreeing with them on everything that, you know, they have to say. Even if what you say is very much in their favor. At the end of the day, what they're going to do is just act like, oh, something's wrong with you. We don't like you. And, we reject you, basically. And it's like, so even if we agree, you're never going to like me. And the reason that is mostly, I think, because of some people have the look for divestment in swirlers. And that's sad because there shouldn't really be a look for swirling or divestors, but it often seems like there's a specific look that's desired for swirlers and divestors. And like, if you don't fit that look, if you don't fit that image that people like to speak of, basically, with swirlers and divestors, you basically end up on the outside. Or you get kind of looked upon like, you're out of place. I was noticing in that video, she was talking about promoting people who are divested, or promoting people who are black men with um so basically interracial relationships, so between black women and white men, and black men and white women. And it's like, from my perspective, I've always promoted both sides. You can look to the beginning of my channel, and I've specifically always come out to say that I support black men with white women, and I support white men with black women. So that's just how I am. But, you know, I think when it comes to black men with white women, I don't know, from the beginning of my channel, with the manosphere specifically, I would say my experiences on with the manosphere were actually not negative. They're never really negative until they find out that I'm not interested in black men. The thing about that is, though, is, you know, people like to have different situations, basically. And that's another part of her video that she talks about. She talks about how, for example, black men were attacking this specific content creator who was promoting black women with white men, and calling them, calling her a white man butt kisser or something, and like a bed wench or some stuff like that. And from my perspective, that if that happens, right, and black men will call you names like that. And from my perspective, I've never seen that as personally a bad thing. And I know that's weird that I don't see that as a bad thing. No, I'm not saying that it's not a bad thing that they called her that. But I mean, like, when I deal with things like that, I don't feel like it's a bad thing. That's why people always get confused with me when I am like talking about black men, for example. And if it's a topic that I feel like, oh, let's defend black people, and I happen to defend black men as a result. Usually people get surprised by this, and then they come back at me by saying, oh, black men are gonna hate you still and stuff. And that's the thing with me, is that I don't really like the simping, or whatever we want to call the other side of it. What people say, like black men who are nice to black women. The reason why I don't like when black men are nice to me is because generally, when black men are nice to me, it's usually because they want something. They want something. They Some simps, for example, are of the mindset that um they want to even simp for maybe someone like a Cynthia G, and just think like, if I'm at my best, the best of best, she will approve of me. It's kind of like a contest for them. Men are like that sometimes. They are like, if you give them a contest to do the best of the best of the best, it's like a competitive move for them. So they will appreciate women like that. So at the end of the day, what they want at the end of the day is to basically have women, black women, and those black women want those men. It works out perfectly for them. Personally, for me, though, I don't want a black man because I'm a swirler. And that's why I always say I am a swirler. That was basically, I started out as swirler, and I looked to divestment for level up purposes in white men and Hispanic men, and possibly mixed men if I can find them. the thing is with mixed men, they're very few and far between. Okay, there's only 2% of mixed people really in this country, right? Like it's not that high percentage of mixed people in this country. So I mean, of men that I'm attracted to, of men that are viable, ideal for me. I mean, that's not very feasible. So that's why for me, it's generally white or mixed men. I mean, Hispanic men, which are mixed men. Hispanic men are technically mixed too. But so for me, that's my interest. And that's why for me, when people talk about like, oh, but their response to you when you defend them or when you talk well of um something about them. Sorry, I'm watching a video. Um but when they talk poorly about you, you know, and things of that nature, it hurts someone who actually prefers them. Someone who doesn't prefer them doesn't care. That's the thing. For me, I just don't care. And I've honestly always shown that I'm only interested in the men I'm interested in. And that is specific to the men I'm interested in. That's why not just one specific man of any race can actually speak for the men that I'm actually interested in, because if they aren't them, then they're just not them. Um, but that's a big thing with how I basically feel on the issue when it comes to interracial relationships. And speaking in favor of both sides, even showing how you support both sides. For me, I do not get any accolades for appreciating divested women or swirling women. Most of the time they're ready to attack me anyway. That's just how it is. And I have honestly, people would like to say, "Oh, what you think is because you are, you look differently than them." I don't even think it's like anything to do with like a phenotype difference. I think it has to do with the fact that some divested sectors come from sectors of dearth of some likable qualities. Now, I'm just saying the specific things that they have lacking. Now, they're working on themselves, so they'll be better people. I'm not saying they're just a waste of space or anything. I think that they are, in the process of their level up. And when they're in their process of level up, that means that they're coming from a place that's below, basically. That means that they have some kind of insecurity. When people have an insecurity, they lash out at other people that don't have the same insecurity they have. That person may have their own faults in other ways, but that other person might be jealous of another person because they have certain qualities that are basically a positive quality that they do not have themselves. So that's why my perception in interracial relationships, I never really gravitate to black women and white men like that. I only gravitate to them in a sense of I self relate, but I understand that they won't relate to me at the same time. Many of the reasons are because, culturally, I come from a different culture than many of them. Sometimes they talk about divestment and they mean it in more of a black community way. And for me, I'm like, I don't even understand what you're talking about with the black community. I don't even understand what people mean when they really talk about black culture, for example. To me, I don't understand it because I was raised in a family where I was taught that black culture and white culture are the same culture as long as it's American culture. So, I mean, I have different perspectives of different people, and some people aren't like that. Some people are more like me, and they were raised in families like that. But still, they might have a difference in another regard. There may be a physical difference. There may be a weight difference. There may be uh, they're just different differences. And like I said, when there's a difference in level up, and people are doing their different journeys and level up, there's just different aspects to it. So that's why for me, I never felt like um, talking about black women with white men is anything, specifically better than talking about, black women and white men. To me, interracial relationships are practically the same as far as, they're both interracial relationships. So, anywho, that was, I think, most of what I want to say on her video. I wanted to add one other thing I forgot to add in this video was, yeah, she I guess I'll end talking about. So, thanks for watching. Bye. This situation with Tariq Nasheed or something of that nature, and talking about how they prefer mixed or mixed race women over women that are like themselves. This is the thing. I guess you have to add in, like I said, my perspective is I never looked to a black man for interest. When he never looked for interest to a black man, then I am of the mindset kind of where I the mindset where I don't really care about, what is preferred. Looking at it from a non emotional situation is where I think I have the advantage over a lot of other people. Okay. So, I mean, like black women who are into black men, and even the ones who are, I guess you could say the people who are, interested in the black men, and then also the ones who are, more of the mindset of a rainbow swirler, you know, or someone, because there's some people who are rainbow swirlers, but they don't date black men because they feel like it's not a choice for them, or something of that nature, so then they might feel hurt by that as well, from my perspective, it's like I don't feel hurt by this because, well, one reason is because, like I said, I don't have any interest. But second reason is because I'm just looking at it as a person who is completely removed from the situation, basically. And so for me, from my perspective, it's like, well, you look at it from a deeper point of view and you see, well, if he doesn't like black women, he doesn't like black men. What I mean by that is this. If you don't like your own image, then you don't like yourself. So, I mean, from my perspective, I'm like, well, what is he saying about himself? Do you think he would choose to be mixed or choose to be black? Better yet, do you think he'd choose to be white or would he choose to be black? And we know the answer to that. And that's why, for people like that, it hurts them more that, black women would choose white men. And it hurts them more when a mixed woman would choose a white man, too. And um, yeah, from my perspective, I mean, like, personally, I never really experienced that anyway because generally when black men interact with me, they kind of try and put me in that other category with like more mixed people or whatever, light skinned people, and things of that nature. Which, I mean, like I said, I have mixed ancestry, but I do identify as a black woman. So, I mean, I don't align with that. I don't find someone's self hate or self issues to be a boost to me. It only think it's a boost as in, oh, thank God that's not me. But it's not like, oh, he wants this or he doesn't want that and I'm hurt by this. I don't care if he wants it or doesn't want it. Specifically, I would prefer him not to want me. I don't care about who else he wants. Just do not specifically want me. And the problem is, in most of my experiences walking down the damn street, what I experience is that they do prefer me without me saying anything. Most of the time when I speak and stuff, they understand that I'm not interested in them. It doesn't take them long to understand that I actually don't prefer black men. And, I don't know why people understand that or think that. I think it more so maybe has to do with my whole perspective and how I think culturally we're the same. And sometimes people pick that up with getting to know me just a little bit about me. They understand that, oh, culturally, she understands her culture to be the same culture, black or white Americans, basically. So that's why, for me, oh, she can't get it. Oh, sorry. Uh, I'm watching this video, this movie on Lifetime. Sorry about that. Apparently, I wasn't taping all that time, and I actually stopped taping. But yeah, that's the main thing when I find certain channels who talk about black men, basically, who are negative towards black women or they prefer mixed women or whatever. It's like, to me, like I said, it's like if you can't like your own image, you understand what's going on, and you could hear how his vitriol, specifically Tariq Nasheed's vitriol when he talks about light-skinned black men. It's funny. You can hear it, how bitter he sounds. Oh God, it's funny. But yeah, from my perspective, it's just like I like if you really think of my personal interests and things of that nature. I prefer men that look like me. That's why, I mean, like, people will ask, like I said, well, what about you? But it's like, for me, I only date white men for the accessibility, the numbers on it, basically. Um, if most of the population is white, why do you expect me to just find one black man who doesn't even look like me to prefer him over a white man who is plentiful that I'm actually attracted to? of course, like to me, it's like I'm attracted to men that look like LL Cool J, to men who look like Lucien LaViscount. Men that I would read as black men. I understand that Lucien LaViscount is not a black man. I understand the young version of Barack Obama, for example, was not a black man. But from my perspective, yeah, he might as well be at that point. 50% black to me is black. How the heck am I supposed to think that 50% black is not black when I got 50% black in me? You know what I mean? It's like impossible for me to think 50% black is not black. And I would say most of those people that I'm listing, like Lucien Leviscon, I know we don't know his percentage, but he sure does look very close to 50% black. I wouldn't think he was anything less than that, like less than 45% black for sure. But, like, that's why, for me, from my perspective, it's just like I could never see, you know, I could never see black men who are my image as less than other men. Like, what would that mean about me if I felt that way, you know? And, even if we're talking about attractiveness, and we're not talking about, like, a person's character, like these people tend to be talking about with black women. Even if we're not talking about that, if we're talking about looks, then dude, you basically said you're undesirable in looks, which is another thing why I've always asked if anyone who doesn't look like you, and it doesn't matter if you prefer them or not, if we don't look like you, why would we prefer you when you've deemed yourself unattractive? Which is just a dumb move. Like, never deem yourself unattractive because other people will look at you and be like, well, if you think you're unattractive, then why am I supposed to think you're attractive? Like, this is a constant thing, and I will say that that applies to white men as well. Many of the time, if you're dating or if you are talking to a man who has a low self esteem, who is white, and he implies he's an unattractive or not a good catch, or he doesn't understand why you're interested in him, you will question yourself and be like, well, why am I into him? He said he wasn't a catch. He said he wasn't attractive. Well, I'll take him at his word on that. There must be something I'm not seeing that he sees. He knows himself more than I do, kind of thing. So to me, this just goes across the board. If you're going to condemn yourself, then don't expect anyone else to lift you up because you've condemned yourself. And that's why, to me, in these kinds of ideas, it's like I don't think that, you know, that kind of perspective is something that is actually condemning black women. But the thing is, black women always get emotional about it because they care too much about black men because they love black men. And then when they love black men, when they attack black men, I mean women, then those black women feel hurt and they get emotional. They get angry, they get sad, they do those different things. For me, the only time I have an issue is if a black man tries to claim that I've ever been with a black man. That's the only time there will be a problem. If you do not claim those kinds of things, you know, if you understand that I'm never talking about black men, when I'm talking about like bad situations, usually I'm not talking about black men when I'm talking about other people's situations because the people I interact with are usually not even black. So when the people that they date, the men that they date are usually not even black. And people always assume that if I'm interacting with people, that I'm interacting with black women. I hardly interact with black women. And I hardly interact with white women that are with black men. It's a major thing there. That's why, I guess from my perspective, and I'll get into this in another video, but only lightly in this video, usually I notice women who like black men, whether they're mixed, whether they're white, even in some cases when they're black women. sometimes. Black women are a little bit different, it seems like. It's a different perspective going on there. But anyway, but most people who like black men, it always seems like they're an insecure bunch, okay? It seems like they're gonna come for you in one way or another. That's why I don't really interact with people who are of that mentality, especially those specific to their own to that own to their own like subset of culture, what they call, I guess, that Black American culture, but it's not really a Black culture in my opinion. That subset, that hip hop culture, those people from those subsets always seems like the women are so insecure. Not even white women, for that matter. And the reason white women are insecure about that is usually because of the white people. It's not specifically the black people, it's the white people. But that's a whole different story, and I don't feel like getting into that. So for me, I don't like to talk or interact with them because they always seem like they're gonna lash out. I don't have time for insecure people because insecure people always lash out. Why do I want to interact with someone who's gonna lash out at me? Like, I don't have time for that. So, yeah. Generally for me, I just don't interact with people like that. So that's all I have to say. I guess, yeah, that's all I'm going to talk about in this video. Yeah, this video is going to be pretty long, probably like 30 minutes. But, yeah, I may have like one other thing to say. I'm trying to search because I don't want to miss anything. Sometimes I miss something that I'm going to talk about. Um, to me, I did like one other thing that she had to say in her video about mixed children and, black men, white women, and things of that nature. To me, I mean, like, I, like, have nothing against that, personally, like, how she was talking about that is how I prefer it. Honestly, I get a little bit upset with some divested channels when they start attacking children. Like, there's no way you should be attacking anyone's child. I don't care if they're biracial. Like, why are you hating on biracial children? I mean, like, in some cases, it seems like, oh, is it because you couldn't have or you choose not to have any biracial children and you wish your children were biracial? You wish your son was biracial? You know? So you're attacking biracial children, but from my perspective, like, I think if you're swirling, you should not be attacking anyone's children, especially not biracial children. If you're attacking biracial children, please get out of the swirl. Get the fuck out of the swirl. Seriously. Because that is no mindset to have. What are you gonna do when you have biracial children that look just exactly like the biracial children you're talking against just because their father is black and their mother is white instead of you're the other way around? Like, that's just sick when people attack biracial children, to me. Anyone's children, for that matter. You know. So, that's just, all in all, my perspective. I think, you know, the image of being, solitaire and not focusing on interracial relationships and only focusing on black women with white men, it has some places I'm like, it's okay, I don't have anything against it. But if you do it solely in a bitter way, to me, it seems like you are now making yourself look bad because now you look bitter instead of just looking like you're in your specific sector. And about that content creator, I have nothing against that content creator. I've had mixed feelings about the content creator because we do not agree on colorism, like, at all. She has a certain perspective on colorism. I have a certain perspective on colorism. Then mixing it with swirling, I don't really like that. But other than that, I don't have anything against her. I specifically spoke to her on one of her lives once, and I really have nothing against her. She's fine, in my opinion. Um, I've had iffy situations because I liked other content creators that did not like her. So it was kind of an awkward situation for a while, and I mean, like, I may have had some negative things to say about her, negative things to say about the other. There's pros and cons about everybody. But yeah, that's all I have to say on that specific topic. And the content creator I'm talking about is not uppity. I'm talking about a content creator uppity was talking about. So anyway, thanks for watching the video and bye.